So we are on for a new episode with the Indian gold market. All this while we've been talking about the qualified jewelers and importing into India and the notification circulars related to that. Uh, Bringing further development to all these. Last week we had a circular released on qualified suppliers. This is going to be a big game changer for the Indian bullion industry, for the reason that we'll be having suppliers from all over the world come on the exchange, subject to the conditions that's been put across, eligibility conditions put across. They'll be in a position to come and sell their gold and silver on the exchange directly, which has not been the case all this while, where an Indian importer always had to go through a nominated agency or a specific list of suppliers. The whole process is going to bring in a better price discovery. Well, that being said, we are having quite a lot. There could be a couple of challenges that may come in the process. To discuss further on it, we have Mr. Ashok Gautam, and the session would be moderated in detail by Mr. Harish Chopra, my colleague. Before we start the discussion, our special thanks to our supporting partners for the webinar: MMTC PAMP India Limited, Sequel Logistics, and Brinks Global Services. Thank you, partners, for being always supportive for this initiative and spreading knowledge on the IIBX and regarding the gold market. Mr. Gautam, before I pass on to Harish to take this forward, let me start with one tough question. Usually we come up with a tough question to the later part, but let me start with the first tough questions so directly. If I'm not wrong, we can say that you are in here for over 6 months currently, and we have seen quite a lot of changes coming in. How prepared is IIBX to welcome all these developments, and what's the level of bandwidth with respect to resources, the trading risk management in place, and so what is the current capability of IIBX in handling all these welcoming changes?
So good afternoon and good morning to the audience, whichever part of the world they are. And I see a lot of global audience today. Thanks to the IGPC for organizing this webinar. Yes, Sudesh, I mean, so I wouldn't call it a tough question, but because this is where we are starting, it's a new exchange and a lot of new things which we have been trying to get going. Thanks to our regulator IFSCA, so many of these things have fructified, and not only our regulator, but various government departments, ministries, they have also chipped in to ensure that many of the initiatives which we all have been planning, they are in front of all of you to see. Regarding the preparedness, obviously we are prepared. We already have the trading risk management and the full system which we have taken from the BSc Tech. It's well up and running. We have resources in place, and some of the team members are also in the process of joining. But at this point of time, let me assure everyone that those who want to come either as a supplier or as a buyer, the exchange is ready to welcome.
Great. Harish, over to you.
Thank you, Sudesh. Thank you all, and good afternoon all. In fact, 14 days or 15 days, and we have 2 circulars from IFSCA, so they are keeping us busy, all of us busy, and 2 webinars also in 15 days. So there is a lot happening when it comes to bullion trading in India and the new platform. So I think Sudhish has given a very good background, and in fact, the question which he asked, not a difficult one, but uncomfortable one for sure, and it kind of sums up the everything. So, but I will now break that into different parts and try to be specific on certain things which I think will benefit all the people who are attending this, so that they can get some specific responses to the queries which they would have. And so this circular, which came on, I think, Thursday, and after that, we had a 3 days holiday in India, and Tuesday we are meeting. So I'm sure we haven't given enough time to Mr. Gautam, but thank you very much for joining it at a very short notice once again. And it also shows that you are on top of things, so when it comes, so that is a comfort which anybody can derive. And so coming to the question, the first thing is that we have seen various operational guidelines from time to time, and there is like now when we have a circular on qualified suppliers. So what was exactly missing in the existing operational guidelines, which this circular is attempting to address, and how and like it will address those? So that
Uh,
is part one of this. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Thank you, Harish. I think a very pertinent question, because that is the answer to that question is essentially what this whole circular is about. And as you all know, that since we uh, came here and started talking to all the stakeholders, prospective stakeholders, that how we would be, enabling ourselves so that they are with us. And of course, in the let's talk on the supply side, because on the buy side we have spoken quite a lot. So let's today focus on the supply side, sell side. So essentially here, the players, there are foreign bullion banks, there are big bullion dealers, there are refineries, they have their own trading arms. So this whole ecosystem is there. Essentially, we were trying to ensure that how do we address some of their concerns which they had expressed. As you know, to become a trading member on the exchange, one needs to have a setup in IFSC, GIFT IFSC. For that, everybody was asking for some time because they have to go through their internal processes, uh, risk management checks, setting up their own, questions and answers from their various committees, from their board. And what everybody was indicating that this is going to take a long time for them to come as a trading member. Second option was always available, which was to come as a client, which is what we were trying to request them that they can come as a client. And in the meanwhile, they were also looking at whether any Indian bank is there in the ecosystem of IIBX. We are grateful that Reserve Bank of India permitted for Indian banks, IFSC banking units, which are here, that if they meet certain criteria and through their board and all, they take approvals, and then they can reach out to Reserve Bank of India to seek approval. So, so the banks are now there. So whatever all the missing pieces which were there are now there. So the banks are now allowed to come as a professional clearing member. So already one bank has been granted the status of a professional clearing members, and I believe there will be a few more who will be coming through that route. Then this part was that because still there was this thing that banks are not a trading member, so can they be a client of a bank, which was not possible at this point of time. We did speak to some of the foreign banks who have offices here. Can they come here as a trading member? But what I realized was that they wouldn't have onboarded any other bank as a client. or maybe other banks would not have become comfortable in getting onboarded to them as a client. So this was again becoming a little bit of a
Non-starter.
issue for us. And so we are confident that there are a few banks who are looking to come as a trading member because they have IFSC banking units here, which are the branches of their global offices, not of the Indian offices. So that way, there is a possibility that one or two or maybe more can look at. But we also wanted to assure the market. See, once the qualified jeweler piece got enabled, the limited purpose trading member on the buy side got enabled, that anybody who was coming in, though we have, just to tell all the, we had assurances from big players who are right now as a client, uh, that there will be no dearth of the supply as long as there are people willing to, put their bids. So from that side, there was no issue. But the idea was that we need a wider set of players on our exchange ecosystem on the supply side. And we got engaged in various discussions with our regulator, and the regulator, IFSCA, as you know, is a very progressive regulator. And they also understood, they heard, and some of the webinars, or some not webinars, some of the web calls is the right word. Some of the web calls where I was also invited were held with various players. And I think a culmination of all that is there, that this circular has now been issued, whereby the qualified suppliers have been defined. And in the qualified supplier, two categories have been very specifically mentioned. One is who can come as a client, and the others who can come as a limited purpose trading member. And this actually, it's I would say it's a kind of a welcome step, a red carpet, that yes, whatever you had asked for, we have given. Now only thing is that you have to come, and now the onus is on us, on exchange, on IIBX, that how do we engage. And in that process, we are thankful to IGPC for arranging this. And we'll also be reaching out one-on-one, whatever are the queries, questions, we'll be answering that. And we'll be also issuing, we were just waiting for this webinar to happen, so that we also have to now issue our SOP on the qualified supplier side. The our exchanges SOP on the buy side, in any case, in 1 or 2 days, it is just getting posted on our website. It's under just final a few corrections in the final draft. But for this, we will wait. So we'll go through this. We'll also get into the Q&A mode, understand what everybody is saying. And then on the basis of the direction which has come from the IFSCA, we'll issue our SOP.
So are you suggesting that the foreign banks who wishes to supply on the platform, so they are also kind of will be able to address their risk management? So because I don't somehow I'm not very convinced on how much will this help to them, because just having a physical presence and not having a physical presence will not make much of a difference on their risk management side. So is that something which you are suggesting in your opening response? Sorry.
Sorry, I lost you. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So are you able to hear my question or no?
No, I couldn't.
So
Yeah.
it was basically like your response on this, and you said that the foreign banks who wish to supply, they would be able to address their risk management queries and all that. So so just by not having the physical presence, is that what they were looking for? or so it means that this circular will address all other issues which they have. Can we expect them on board soon?
See, Harish, it's always, most of these things, as you know, we are all starting, and most of these things are new. Many of these things have no precedence. Okay. I mean, the kind of things which are being attempted. So we are sure that, many of the questions which have been raised to us, the regulator has issued this circular, and most of these questions get answered in this. Regarding the specific question related to the risk management part and all, so obviously we have very strong risk management uh, tools here. The software and all, which the trading software and risk management software which we have taken is a proven software which we have taken. Regarding on the sell side, obviously foreign banks will have to have their own assessment, which I'm sure this circular and our SOP, which will come out in a day or two, will address most of their queries. Otherwise, we'll also put on our FAQ, whatever questions come, and we will put the answers to those questions on our FAQ. And we are also open for a one-on-one discussion with any of the entities who want to come on the IIBX bullion ecosystem as a supplier. So I think I believe there is no concern. What I understand, it is their own internal issues. There is a bullion desk which is run as a separate vertical, and whether the office which is here can accommodate that bullion desks. So I mean, there were their own issues, and whether they will have to post personnel here. Though a lot of many of these doubts were raised and they were replied. But I believe this whole LPTM qualified supplier LPTM thing which has come, I think this facilitates and most of the queries which they had have been answered. So now I think probably they will not have any other, though I mean questions will always be there, and we are there to answer, but they wouldn't have any other concern in their mind, because if I can say that the bullion which they will be supplying will essentially get back to their bullion vertical in that sense.
Absolutely.
And the dealers who are there at whichever office, either in Singapore, London, Zurich, or Dubai, or any other place, or maybe Johannesburg. So they will be able to price the gold which they are supplying, and going forward the silver from their offices where they have their own trading hubs, or their bullion dealers are sitting. Also, one
Mind
thing,
explaining step by step on that remote access mode, how are they going to supply it? If you have to give an example, can you explain step by step?
yeah, so I'll break it into one or two pieces. I was just going to add one more point, that we have also put the API on our this, website. It is available. So some of the clients I know, they are already developing, connecting their algo pieces with the API, so that they can price on it, instead of a manual pricing, they can price it through their engines. So this is what we want to facilitate. So okay, let's go step by step. I'll first concentrate on the qualified supplier on the LPTM side, and assuming it's a large bullion dealer, a large trading house, a bullion trading house, which meets these criteria, and the uh, foreign bullion banks who are big players in this. So obviously, I'm sure the criteria which has been put, they would be meeting many of these criteria, and this also has a stipulation that they have to be member of at least one of the associations and exchanges, which is given in the circular, which they all can read. So once they want to come as a LPTM, there are prescribed forms which will be specifically mentioning for the supply side, the LPTM forms. In a day or two, that will be uploaded. And so once we have onboarded them, because there are certain checks and balances which we have to ensure, we have to see various criteria which are stipulated by the regulator. regarding net worth and many of such other things which are there. So once we scrutinize that, there is another important element is of the fit and proper. I'm sure they will be, because if they are members of many of these exchanges and associations, so they will be meeting many of the international fit and proper standards. But obviously, we'll be doing our own due diligence. This might take a little bit of a few days for us to sort it out. So once this is done, and say we have come to a stage where we give them a letter that yes, they are qualified supplier LPTM. With that, they will have to then choose a clearing member. So we have a list of trading cum clearing members, so they can choose any of those trading cum clearing members. We also have professional clearing members. As I told, now the IFSC banking units of Indian banks have also been allowed to be. They can come as a PCM. We have already have one. So they will have to choose one entity as
Has
a.
that added to the comfort of for the suppliers?
I understand. I understand that it has added, and along with that, they will also have to engage with our India International Depository IFSC Limited, which is our sister company, because we are under a holding company called India International Bullion Holding IFSC Limited. So they will have to open their demat account. They, I'm sure, would have tie-up with either one or two or all three vault vaulting partners which we have. So we have SQL, whose our international partner is Loomis. Then we have Brinks, and then we have Malkamith. Malkamith has entered into a JV with another player, uh, and maybe those who have visited or those who are going to visit GIFT IFSC, you will see some of the world-class vaulting facilities have been created here. So you can send your gold through that arrangement, and of course, this will be specified. You know which refinery. All those details are there on our website. So, and we will have to ensure one more thing, that once these things are there, there is a form called KYBD, Know Your Bullion Depositor. It's a 10-page form. So if you are a LBMA gold supplier, then there is a particular form which you will have to fill. Other UAE good delivery and all, we are in the process once that happens, but we have already uploaded that form on our website. And those who are in a position to supply both, they will have to have the third version of that form. There are 3 versions of that form. So that KYBD 10-page form, which has been duly, we have interacted with various national and international bullion experts, and with their help, as well as through the website of many of these associations and exchanges, we have tried to pick the best of the things. And this form has been developed, whereby the supplier has to give various undertakings and certifications that adherence to various practices which are necessarily they have to meet. Apart from that, we have also engaged with our vaulting partners, whereby that uh, uh, uninterrupted chain of that supply, that is something which they will have to certify. So that we want to assure both our suppliers as well as buyers that the gold which is coming on our system is meeting the highest global standards of chain of custody, as well as, of course, the various is meeting various international standards. There is a reason why we wanted to do that. Sorry, I'm just getting to that chain.
Yeah, because actually that's fine, because you are taking away many questions from our list. So we will still be able to finish it within the time allotted.
Okay. And the reason why we wanted to do that, that ours is an international financial services center, a special economic zone, where the movement is free, as well as the bullion movement is free. what we also want to tell everyone, the suppliers, that if you have the gold in our IFSC vaults, at any point of time you want to take it to any other country, re-export to any other country, it can be done without any hassles, because it has not yet crossed to the DTA area post customs duty. So it is a hassle-free re-export of gold. If you find probably you are getting better pricing elsewhere, and maybe our market has gone in discount, or there is a slump in the demand for whatever reason. I will also like to just mention here that what we believe in our ecosystem, the pricing and costing we have tried to keep low, though some may not be happy about it, but I think it is extremely important. We remain very competitive. We also tell our bullion suppliers that why don't you create gift IFSC vaults as your regional vaulting hub, and store your metal here and then supply gold or silver from here. This will certainly, you will find it quite cost effective. We'll get into that phase at some other point. Maybe we can have another webinar only on this vaulting part.
But this is something which we had discussed even in our previous webinar. Thanks for clarifying again. One of the conditions which I see here in the circular is that the QS has to be a member of LVMA, COMEX, Shanghai, and DMCC, or I think BIST. So what could be the rationale for that? And they have to be member for 5 years. So what could be the rationale? Does it restrict the entry? So what are the initial thoughts?
So I wouldn't call it restricts the entry. What I would say that the players who want to come here as a limited purpose trading member on the supply side, they have to meet these criteria, because normally on exchange how it happens. So you come either as a trading member or you come as a client. So if you're coming as a trading member, then you have an establishment here which is under a regulatory glare of the regulator here. Or if you're coming as a client, then of course there is a second level of supervision which is being exercised by the trading member. But here what we wanted was that the suppliers who are coming to us are well reputed, well established. They have a track history. They have a track record. They are in this business for some time, and they are member of the 5 you missed out, Borsa Istanbul. So they are member of these exchanges and associations. So once they are members of these exchanges and associations, so obviously they are meeting certain standards, and they are conforming to various fit and proper criteria of those associations and exchanges. And of course, we will be doing our own due diligence also, but
it's an added comfort.
Takes care of one layer of comfort. And because in our exchange we are starting and we want to be our exchange to be globally acceptable, and that is why we little bit of though they are I would say they are well balanced. They are not neither too lenient nor too tough, but very thought. There is a great thought has gone behind in putting these criteria, so that we encourage quality players to come on our.
Another related thing is that when we talk about issuing this circular, I would call it an enabler. So do we take the feedback from the suppliers or prospective suppliers, or is it like we anticipate and based on our assessment we think that these are the things which are important to have? Because see, the thing is, like if it is based on the feedback, then I think it is like we are moving in the right direction, because we are trying to address some of the concerns they would have. And if it is like a mixture of both, that also is fine. But so what could be your thought on that? Like, or what would be the rationale?
Harish, in fact, in my opening comments also, I mentioned that there have been extensive discussions. So obviously at exchange level, we have done discussions with all the stakeholders, and IGPC has also facilitated many of these discussions. And many of these suppliers have reached out to our regulator. They have sought meetings with them. And see, any of these are actually, we are market infrastructure, regulator is there, and anything which is put is just not, thought in a room and it is put. There is very extensive consultation processes there. And on the basis of that very extensive consultation process, uh, we come up with the various instructions and guidelines which we follow, which have been issued by which regulator issues, and we all follow. But let me also tell you, and I have seen this happening with our regulator as well as even in India, the regulators were there. Uh, so whenever these kind of instructions come, is there always a scope for people to make representations and give suggestions, and obviously at the next round whenever this is reviewed, those things are taken into account. So it's always a very consultative process. The idea is what? The idea is that the gold which is going in India, it has to be traded on a transparent platform where the price is visible. And if more buyers and more suppliers come on this platform, then this becomes a place, a platform where price is discovered for the gold which is traded in India. And that we believe, because we are one of the largest consumers, and on the import side also we are one of the largest players. So it makes sense that we at least start influencing the price, and at some point of time also start setting the price. With that objective, we want large players to come in, both buy side and sell side, so that these things get facilitated. And we will be taking more steps going forward. Some of the notifications have already come from government. We are having internal discussions. We'll talk to various stakeholders. We have already talked to various stakeholders, and we'll further come up with many of the new things which you will be seeing, and we'll be then doing new webinars.
At what stage can we have a master circular kind of a thing, which kind of summarizes the whole thing, and then we need not to issue circulars at regular intervals?
I think this is always work in progress. We are developing towards that. And the master circulars will also come. Maybe if we have gone through this 1 year phase of whatever instructions have been issued, then probably a master circular. But I'm not the right person to answer that. I'm sure regulator will hear you, and they take their call.
Because the
Gautam,
thing is that sorry, yeah, Sudesh, please go.
Mr. Gautam, I have a question on because we have very suppliers who are coming on board, and not just the regulated entities. When I say regulated entities, the banks, because one would be a member of any of these organizations, but not necessarily they are regulated. They may be compliant, but they do not come under the purview of any regulations as such. Now, in such a case, let's say a bank A is putting in they are putting a cell there, and then there's a large bullion dealer who would want to put a cell there, and there's a price that is being decided between the supplier and the Indian buyer. Of course, it's a trading exchange-based trading platform where the best price matches. Do you see any risk related to price manipulation that can come in, and is that a concern that's on top of your mind when you're letting all of them participate in this?
So one thing, Sudesh, as you know, and our audience also know, that at this point of time, we are not going for a bulk negotiated trade to be done on the exchange. The idea is that there are multiple sets of buyers, there are multiple sets of sellers, and based on the demand and supply, the bid and offer price moves and they get matched, and that is the price at that point of time. So to answer your question, whether I have any concerns on that, my only answer is like this. We must facilitate that that road has already been created, and we have removed many of the blocks from there. That large number of buyers are able to come without any, and similarly, large number of sellers to this now circular are able to come. So in a marketplace, whenever there are large numbers of buyers and sellers, so the point which you're referring to, in my view, that probability almost diminishes. And this is what has been my experience everywhere, that the more the players are there, there is it actually disappears, because whoever is trying to do something, they will realize, because of the market forces, there is a better execution of the price, and it is in interest of everyone uh, that we allow the price to be discovered in a proper way on the exchange. But obviously, we have very strong surveillance and other things in place. If any of such things come to our, we see that we'll take proper action.
Okay. Does that address, Sudesh? So, in fact, when we talk about this new nomenclature, qualified supplier, so this seems like a new, nomenclature which was earlier not existing. So now, whether every participant has to first obtain an authorization as a QIS, or just like in the case of qualified jewelers. So any entity who's willing to supply by becoming a client of a trading member, they should now submit documents again, or how it is?
So Harish, one thing we were very clear that, entities can become a client of a trading member and come on our exchange to do trading. But we were very clear from day one that any entity who wants to supply the bullion, they have to meet certain criteria. That's why on our exchange, we have come up with that know your bullion depositor form, which spells out lot many details there. And we are very happy that our regulator has put in place. So if you see, if I can put it this way, an individual or whoever is outside India, he can come as a client, right, and do trading or do investment, but he will not be in a position to bring the bullion. Because if you see even the qualified supplier client side also, there also it talks about a body corporate, that is a limited liability company or a limited liability partnership or a company. So this is very important piece. This is one distinction which we had in any case brought in through our KYBD, but regulator has now put a stamp to it. And this is extremely good for the whole ecosystem of this exchange.
So the QIS, the qualified supplier who's acting through a trading member, so they can buy and sell both. So they can do trades on both sides. So what happens if their net position is, let's say, buy? So can they actually export that also? I would not say the word export actually, but can they take that gold out of Indian boundaries?
Yeah, so that thing is very clear, Harish. So in fact, we are also promoting our exchange. You will see some of the steps being taken going forward, that we also want this to be the investment destination for the bullion. So the NRIs, the PIOs, the investor community, if they want to invest in bullion, in the BDR, which is backed by the physical bullion, this is a place to be. And this is what we are going to promote. So in that sense, I don't see any
No
discussion.
issues.
This is essentially the part of the continuum which we are trying to do. And step by step, things will be rolled out. My only submission and request to all the participants who are there, and many more who will be hearing through these participants, that from the regulator, uh, I think we couldn't have asked for more. These things have been enabled, and now I think the time has come for us to shed whatever inhibitions we had in our mind, because these things have been made on the basis of the feedback which has come from you. So the time has come that you come, and we will facilitate your quick onboarding. and let's get going.
So the qualified suppliers who are acting as limited purpose trading member LPTM, will they be provided access to the trading system, and what would be the compliances for them?
Yeah, so in fact, that was the reason, there's so many of these conditions have been put, because these will not be the trading terminals of the trading members, but trading terminals of the exchanges. That is why these little bit of more compliance things have been added on them. And of course, the entities which will be allowed to come in, who will be meeting these criteria, there will be due diligence process will be there. And I'm sure they will be meeting, though those who will be meeting all these criteria will be onboarded. And apart from that, we also have to understand that they will be coming mostly as a client, so this is a special category of a client. We are not calling them a special category of a member. They are coming as a special category of client, whereby they have been given the exchange terminal, and they are directly putting in their prices for selling. And again, there is a restriction that they can only sell. So this is what we wanted to enable. So because they are outside India, outside IFSC area, so, and we are giving them the exchange terminal, so they can only be allowed to bring their gold in and sell.
So whom should that qualified supplier acting as LPTM approach in the IIBX ecosystem to clear their deals? As I think they are not recognized as an intermediary. So whom should they?
So we have a membership desk. So that email ID is there, and in any case, my email ID is now known to everyone. We'll again put it today here. And so it's simple, membership at iibx.co.in. We'll again put it here. It's on our website. So any queries which come there, and most of these potential qualified suppliers, they know our exchange staff.
They will have the SOP which basically directs them as to how the clearing will happen of their deals and all that.
So again, on the basis of this circular which has been issued, our SOP will be coming out within this week. We are just drafting and fine tuning the text. So it will be coming. And plus, I also wanted to wait for today's webinar. If there are any Q&A, and if there is a some suggestions or some such thing, we'll so that we can address that.
Have you thought of the fee structure which is applicable for the QS? For QS like qualified supplier.
So the only thing which we have to finalize is what is written here also, that QS LPTM shall maintain a minimum interest-free security deposit as may be specified by IIBX.
Okay.
So we are just evaluating it, and this will be
no additional fee. That's what you're suggesting?
No, there are certain charges. There are membership fees and other things. Those will be put up. We'll be sharing. But I'm sure that will not be a deterrent to anyone. So yeah.
So after going through this circular, like I think it runs into about 6 pages or something, I found that there has been references where for certain things the qualified supplier need to approach one body, for another things they need to approach another body. I would request if you can formulate the system where there's only a single window. So that helps. So that single window can take whatever advisory from the other departments like the depository, but for them it should be a single window addressing all their concerns.
Harish, I think it's a very good point. And just to tell you, we have already put in a place called common KYC. So between us and the depository, there will be a common KYC. And even if somebody is coming as a client, we are also trying to work with the trading members, so that there are no different things are asked, documents are asked from different entities. So this will be coming out very soon, and I think this is a very, very valid suggestion what you have made, and it should move very fast. We are coming up with a unified KYC. So initially when those papers are given, So simultaneously, whatever IIDI has stipulated, whatever IIBX has stipulated, and if they are coming as a LPTM, then those things are taken care of. Because here there's one element of a clearing member. So we'll also be checking up with the PCMs and all, unless they have something, some other requirement on the TCMs. But I think we have seen through, and it should be coming. So this unified KYC is coming very soon. So that will answer your one window concept question. So that
In fact, then they
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 don't have to run
related things
around
like
here and there.
brokerage and clearing charges and all those things. I'm sure that SOP will cover all those things.
Yes, yeah. Most of these things are already on our website, but there'll be a few things specific to this
No,
because
because
of
this
this circular,
QoS,
whatever has
so
come.
QS is a new concept. So for that, you will have a different structure for everything.
Related to this piece, we will be coming up with
Of
whatever is the gap that will be covered.
So another
in
5 minutes, we will open it to the attendees because I think we have already started getting few questions from them. But in the meantime, we'll just finish up what we have in the list. So the very basic question: what is the good delivery standard for qualified supply, so that there is no ambiguity in their mind?
So at this point of time, the contract which is enabled is LBMA good delivery. We have listed out those details. But I also want to tell the audience here that we are actively engaging with our regulator that can we have a separate UA good delivery also, and we our proposal is that we would like to run it as a separate contract. And
so qualified suppliers, will they be allowed to onboard their own clients under them?
See, the qualified suppliers can come as two pieces in this case.
LPTM. I'm saying
So LPTM cannot onboard anybody because, as I told you, they are more akin as a client rather than as a member. So they cannot onboard anyone. This is a special dispensation which has been given to large bullion dealers, foreign bullion banks, so that they quickly come on our ecosystem and start supplying gold and start using IIBX ecosystem for vaulting and other such facilities.
Just small doubt which could arise after issuance of the circular is what happens to the present trading members? Like when we are now saying that qualified suppliers for the supply side, is that now the qualified suppliers only unless you are qualified under qualified suppliers, then only you can supply, or what happens to the existing trading members? Are they still allowed to supply gold?
See, this is related to the qualified supplier. There are two parts. One is they are coming as a client, one is coming as a LPTM. And on the, if I can just read, so any entity being a body corporate, a company, a limited liability company, or limited liability partnership incorporated as per the applicable laws in the home jurisdiction shall be eligible to apply to become a designated qualified supplier on IIBX. So any trading member who want to become a qualified supplier can become a qualified supplier under this clause. So it's very simple. It's very well spelled out. So if people go through it, there'll be no doubt in their mind. But good that you asked this question so that I could clarify to everyone.
Okay, so any net worth requirements for qualified supplier acting as a client?
So we have not stipulated anything on that side. But when we are onboarding them and the KYBD form which we are asking them to fill, if you read that form, if you go through the composition of that form, you will realize that anybody who is with a very less net worth and all may not be able to come under that because it requires a lot of things to be done there.
Okay.
So,
but we have not specified. We have not specified.
So that's a question on the rationale behind prohibiting the qualified suppliers on buying gold.
Sorry?
The qualified suppliers. So what is the rationale behind not allowing the qualified suppliers to buy gold? They can only sell gold. The LPTM.
Qualified supplier can always buy gold
the
as
LPTM.
long as they are coming as a client or as a trading member. The only entity who cannot buy the gold is the qualified supplier who is coming as LPT. So, what we want, we want to encourage the large bullion banks or the large bullion dealers to actually come here and become trading members in IFSC, gift IFSC. And then they can do buy, sell, because we would encourage them to do. But as we were told that it is going to take them long time. So in the meanwhile, this is an enablement which has been given. So at least they can start coming to the IIBX system and start supplying.
Okay.
Okay. So we can actually take questions now from the.
I'll allow Rajendra to talk, and all of you kindly do introduce yourself before your question, asking your question. Mr. Jeremy, do you still have your queries to be answered? Yeah. Rajendra?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. This is Rajendra Relay from Cyrilla Merchant Mangaldas. My question to Mr. Ashok Gautam is, and a very good afternoon to you, is what are some of the legal challenges that you see that you need to get addressed over the next 6 months, 1 year, as you see the ecosystem evolve?
Rajendra, I think we will have to have a session for you where you actually come and tell us that what could be the legal challenges and how we all resolve it. So at this point of time, let me tell you, as you know, the regulator, whenever they are issuing any circular and all, so there are legal teams who vet it, and after due vetting, these circulars are issued. So that is one thing. But Rajendra, as we talk, see this whole IFSCA authority and this gift IFSC, a lot of new things are coming, a lot of things are evolving. And I'm sure legal luminaries like you obviously have a role to play where, you can be part of that process where there's a think tank, they are guiding the government, they are guiding the exchange, they are guiding the other regulators, what could be the challenges, what could be the pitfalls. And if after reading this, if you believe that there could be some issues, we'll be happy to have a one-on-one session a little later to understand, and then we'll try to see if those are the concerns and what is our advice which we have got and how do we address that. So this is at this point of time I would like to answer. Beyond
Sure.
that,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So Mr. Bharti, I wanted to know my introduction. So I actually represent India Gold Policy Center and not IIBX. I hope that clarifies.
Jeremy,
anyone who wants to join in can raise hands, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Jeremy.
Hi. There's a couple of things. First thing I'd just like to add to the comments at the beginning regarding the bullion banks, and because through my experience running Standard Chartered for many years and setting up a big business in India, the banks, especially the international banks, are very conservative in terms of setting up new businesses. And there's all kinds of processes around what I might say is risk management. So you talk to the sort of the front office, and their focus more is on the risk management, the price risk, the liquidity of the market, etc. But maybe arguably more important is the sort of the operational side, the operational risks. And the banks will be working on that in terms of the kind of the full end-to-end process of transacting, how that transaction is executed, the flow of gold, the custody of gold, and all the rest of it. And so it's quite a long process to get the internal approvals for that to be done. But once that process is in place, then kind of the door is open for the banks, and they will not be given a sort of carte blanche, but they will have limits of how much gold they can trade, how much gold they can hold into the vaults, etc. But just to say that it's an ongoing process, and it can take some time. one of the key focuses will be the return that the banks can earn on this business. They'll look at it and say, okay, I want to set up this business through the exchange, and what sort of returns can that give me? What sort of access can that give me? And I personally, I think, what we're looking at here, you've got a number of banks who already are doing business in India, but there's a number of banks who don't. And these banks will look upon this as being a great opportunity to access the Indian market. So I think, in addition to the existing banks who I'm sure will be looking to access the market. So I think this will kind of like open the door to a wider audience. Sorry, I've been speaking a little bit, but my second point is really learning the lessons that we learned out in Asia a few years ago. And that's related to the access of the market. The SBMA in Singapore were instrumental in supporting the launch of a new contract, a new gold contract, which ultimately failed to take off in Singapore, despite having the support of all the big banks and etc. And one of the reasons for that was getting the support of the clearing members. Because when a clearer for a large international company to set themselves up as a clearer of different types of financial products, to add a new product to their clearing, to their range, their product range, which they offer their clients, can be quite expensive. And the costs to set up these new products, and as we learned from the lesson from Singapore, was too high, and a number of the clearers decided not to go ahead and launch these contracts because they felt that their client flow and the business that would come from these contracts wouldn't be able to justify the cost and the investment. So those are my comments. Thank you for listening to me.
Very useful.
Yeah, Jeremy, I think I must thank you because you have brought out many of the points which we were always discussing, and you have also given us some pointers to be mindful of some of the things which we see coming, maybe some of the pitfalls which we must avoid. Thank you, Jeremy. In fact, we are grateful for your comments. And regarding the point which, I couldn't have said it better when you mentioned that it opens up the doors for the banks who want to access India being a large consumer market. So obviously, at one place, if you can get access to maybe going forward top 100 clients in India at one place, probably then this is the place for you to come. And we have just rolled out a qualified supplier as NPTM. Obviously, there will be various risk management and operational risk issues which everybody will be looking at. And we are very happy and supportive of interacting with the respective teams of respective banks. And we already had multiple rounds of discussions. And as I just said, our SOP will be coming. I hope it will be very clearer and we'll be spelling out things in detail post this issue of this circular and post this webinar. And I think thanks for your feedback.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's a question from an anonymous. So just to answer that question in terms of why an IIBX and why not the current system, IIBX is I would say it is an alternative to the current system. Those who see value here, they will come in. Those who don't, they will continue the consignment. That's a simple answer there.
Sunil has asked a question, Mr. Kashyap. Is the qualified supplier's income on sale of gold on International Bullion Exchange taxable in India? Any views on that, Mr. Gautam?
As of now, what I understand, there is a tax holiday, but I am not the competent person to answer on the tax part. It's better to address to a tax expert. But specific to this, I will check up and
I
try.
think, yeah, we'll make a note of this. I think
Because,
this
yeah, I can't
correct
answer
for
this here. Yeah.
very valid question. Wish any more?
Yeah. That's it. We're good in that case.
Are the USD clearing banks equipped to open accounts for qualified supplier from various foreign countries?
Okay, just to tell you that as we mentioned, the qualified supplier LPTM will be requiring a clearing member. So it could be a trading cum clearing member or a professional clearing member. And then, so they will as such not be opening their account here. So it will be, they will be using the clearing members account. These accounts are opened with the Indian banks, IFSC banking units.
Mr. Pawani's question was taken,
Yes, it
Suresh?
was.
Okay. I think that's all we have.
Sudesh, anything
Okay.
else we have missed out on the lot of questions have been put?
There's some suggestions actually, like, okay, and some comments, or is the value addition and all that. I think you have
I
already
think we have answered
responded
this
to that.
over the
Yeah.
last 3 webinars. Anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And how long it will take to do the KYC process on overseas suppliers? Some you said it will take a couple of days, but are you in a position to comment on specific days?
No,
Or
no,
it
I,
will be
I
released as
wouldn't
this
say
SOP?
I wouldn't say 2 days, but I think
Specific few days, yeah.
it should be seen soon. I mean, our endeavor is to do it very fast, but
So this has a wider kind of due diligence process. So I don't think 2 days will be a fair expectation in my
yeah, because this would require it to go through. We also have our own committees to look at this. Whole
Sorry,
guess.
I said few days, not 2 days. Sorry.
Okay, okay.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so good now. So our next round of webinar will be related to the SOPs that will be releasing hopefully this week. So until then.
And in fact, in next 15 days or 1 month, we would like to have a follow-up webinar on seeing the progress on both the SOP which was issued in earlier in the month, and now this circular. And so just to see like what kind of interest has been created and what kind of queries which are coming. And also at some point of time, we have to think about kind of making a decision which is based, which doesn't require too much of changes. And so a well thought, decision, so that on the day one we have a system which is like working, and then there are add-ons.
Hopefully the most imports for the coming Diwali season comes through IIBX. Best wishes on that. Thank you all. So we'll meet soon to discuss more on the SOPs. It will be released hopefully this week or early next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gautam. Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Looking forward to welcome you on IIBX. Thank you. Thank you.